The call came in at 2:47 a.m. Disturbance at 5th and Main. Officer Jake Thompson was halfway through his third cup of stale coffee, his eyes gritty from another sleepless shift. The city at this hour was a patchwork of neon and shadows, the hum of distant traffic, the only sign of life. Jake had spent years patrolling these streets. He knew the rhythms, the dangers, the stories that played out in the dark. He'd seen the best and worst of people, sometimes in the same night. He expected the usual drunk college kids spilling out of bars. Maybe a minor scuffle, a noise complaint from the all-night diner. He didn't expect anything that would change his life, not tonight, but as he turned onto Fifth headlights sweeping over empty sidewalks, he spotted three men clustered around a figure slumped against the wall of a boarded-up store. Their voices carried in the stillness. "Get out of here, old man, you're scaring off business. This is our spot, you bum." The figure on the ground didn't answer. Jake parked, flicked on his flashlight, and stepped out, boots crunching on broken glass. His hand hovered near his holster, not because he expected trouble, but because habit and training never left you. "Police, hands where I can see them." His voice was sharp, cutting through the night. The three men froze, then scattered, muttering curses as they melted into the shadows. Jake approached the man on the ground, a homeless vet, by the look of the battered duffel and the faded army jacket. "You all right, sir?" Jake asked, kneeling down. The man looked up, blinking in the harsh beam of the flashlight. His face was gaunt, beard untrimmed, eyes hollow. Around his neck, a pair of dog tags glinted. Jake's breath caught. He reached for the tags, gently turning them over in his hand. Chen, Michael, JBLOOD, type O plus religion. Christian. Jake's mind reeled. Michael Chen, Sergeant Michael Chen, the man who'd saved his life in Kandahar 15 years ago. The man whose funeral he'd attended. "Michael," Jake whispered. The man squinted, confusion flickering across his face. "Do I know you?" His voice was rough, strained, as if unused for days. "It's Jake Thompson, Kandahar, 2009. Michael stared, memories flickering behind tired eyes. "Jake, little Jake, you made it out." Jake nodded, tears stinging his eyes. "Because of you." Michael looked away. "Thought I was dead, didn't you? We all did. They told us you didn't make it." Michael gave a bitter laugh. "Guess I didn't." "Not really." Jake helped him to his feet. "Come on, let's get you somewhere safe." Michael hesitated, glancing down the empty street. "Nowhere to go." "You do now," Jake said, voice firm. "You saved my life. Let me return the favor." As they walked to the cruiser, Michael stumbled. Jake steadied him, feeling the bones beneath the jacket. "When's the last time you ate?" Michael shrugged. "Don't remember." Jake drove him to the station, got him a blanket and a cup of coffee. As Michael sipped, hands shaking, Jake called his wife. "Sarah, it's me. I need you to trust me. I'm bringing someone home. You remember Michael Chen? He's alive." Sarah was silent for a moment. "Bring him, Jake. Whatever he needs." Jake turned back to Michael. "You'll stay with us tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest." Michael nodded, exhaustion overtaking him. Flashback. Kandahar, 2009. The desert sun was brutal, burning through layers of gear. Jake, barely 19, was the youngest in the squad. Sergeant Chen was his mentor, steady, unflappable, always watching their backs. "Keep your head down, Thompson," Chen would say, voice calm even when mortar fell. "This place eats the careless." On patrol, Jake tripped over a half-rock as he pushed himself up. He saw the telltale wires and IED, BOMB. He screamed. Chen lunged, shoving Jake aside. The explosion tore through the silence, flinging them both into the dust. When Jake came to, Chen was pinned under rubble, blood pooling beneath him. "Stay with me, Sarge," Jake cried, clawing at the debris. Medics arrived, hauling Chen away. Later, Jake was told Chen had died of his wounds. The squad mourned. Jake carried the guilt for years. Present day at Jake's home, Sarah greeted Michael with warm eyes and a gentle hug. She didn't flinch at the dirt or the smell. She set a plate of food before him, watching as he devoured it in silence. "Thank you," Michael whispered, voice cracking. "Your family," Sarah said simply. That night, Michael lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Memories crashed over him: gunfire, explosions, faces of men he couldn't save. He pressed the dog tags to his chest, anchoring himself to the present. Michael's JOY over the next days. Jake helped Michael navigate the labyrinth of the VA paperwork, interviews, endless questions. Michael sat through therapy sessions, sometimes silent, sometimes raging against the memories. Jake visited every day. Some days Michael talked about the war, about the friends he'd lost, about the years wandering city streets, invisible to the world. Other days, he stared out the window, lost in regret. Sarah found ways to help. She washed his clothes, cooked his favorite meals, listened without judgment. In the evenings, she'd sit with Michael, sharing stories of her own father, a Vietnam vet who'd never quite come home, even after returning. Slowly, Michael began to heal. He joined a support group, found solace in the stories of others who'd walked the same path. He reconnected with his family, a mother who wept when she heard his voice, a brother who drove cross-country to see him. Michael's days at the Thompson household began to take on a rhythm. Each morning, Sarah would brew a fresh pot of coffee and set out to mugs, one for Jake as he came off his shift, one for Michael, who was often already awake, staring out the window at the quiet street. The first few days, Michael barely spoke. He'd sit at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around the warm mug, eyes distant. But Sarah never pushed. She'd talk about ordinary things, the neighbor's dog, the weather, the best way to get stains out of old uniforms. Slowly, Michael started to respond. A nod here, a half smile there. He began to feel, for the first time in years, like he belonged somewhere. Jake used his days off to help Michael navigate the maze of the VA. They'd sit in waiting rooms for hours, filling out paperwork, Michael's hands shaking as he signed his name. Sometimes, the process felt endless. There were forms for housing, for medical care, for therapy. Jake never complained. He'd tell stories about the force, about the strange things people did in the middle of the night. Michael listened, sometimes laughing, sometimes just grateful. For the company, therapy was the hardest. The first session, Michael sat in a small room across from Dr. Patel, a calm, patient man who'd worked with veterans for decades. Michael stared at the floor, silent. Dr. Patel didn't rush him. Instead, he told Michael about his own father, who'd fought in Korea and never spoke of it. Sometimes, Dr. Patel said, the wounds we carry are invisible, but they're no less real. That night, Michael lay awake, Dr. Patel's words echoing in his mind. He thought about the friends he'd lost, the guilt he carried, the years spent wandering city streets, invisible to the world. He thought about Jake, about the way he'd shown up out of nowhere, refusing to let Michael disappear. He wondered if he deserved this second chance. The next morning, Michael found Sarah in the kitchen, humming as she made breakfast. She smiled when she saw him. How'd you sleep? He hesitated. Better, thank you. She nodded. You're safe here, Michael. Take all the time you need. Later that day, Jake drove Michael to a support group for veterans. The meeting was held in the basement of a local church, folding chairs arranged in a circle. At first, Michael sat in the back, arms crossed, listening as others spoke. There was Tom, a Marine who'd lost his leg in Iraq, Lisa, an Army nurse who struggled with nightmares, and Marcus, a Navy vet who'd spent years on the streets before finding help. When it was Michael's turn, he hesitated. The room was silent, everyone waiting. Finally, he spoke. My name's Michael. I was in Afghanistan. I got lost for a long time. I thought I didn't matter anymore. Tom nodded. You matter, brother, we all do. After the meeting, Lisa approached him. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Sometimes it helps, knowing you're not alone. Michael thanked her, surprised by how much lighter he felt. For the first time, he believed maybe he wasn't alone after all. As the weeks passed, Michael settled into a routine. He helped Sarah around the house, fixing leaky faucets, painting the porch, even building a birdhouse for the backyard. He found comfort in the small tasks. In the sense of accomplishment they brought, Jake encouraged him to apply for a job at a local mechanics shop. The owner, Mr. Harris, was a Vietnam vet who recognized the look in Michael's eyes. You know engines? Harris asked. Michael nodded. Used to fix Humvees in the field. Harris grinned. That's good enough for me. Start tomorrow. The first day was tough. Michael's hands shook as he worked, memories of the war flashing through his mind. But Harris was patient, showing him the ropes, telling stories about his own time in the service. By lunchtime, Michael felt a little more at ease. That evening, Jake and Sarah celebrated Michael's new job with a home-cooked meal. They laughed, shared stories, and for a moment, Michael forgot about everything he'd lost. But the shadows weren't gone. Some nights, Michael woke up gasping, heart racing, sweat soaking the sheets. Jake would find him sitting on the porch, staring at the stars. You okay? Jake would ask. Michael would nod, but Jake knew the truth. He'd seen the same look in other veterans, the haunted eyes. The weight of memories that never faded. One night, Michael finally spoke. Do you ever wonder why we made it back? Jake was silent for a moment. All the time. Michael looked down at his hands. Sometimes I wish I hadn't. Jake put a hand on his shoulder. You're here for a reason, Michael. You saved my life. Maybe now it's my turn. Michael nodded, grateful for the friendship, for the chance to start. Over a few weeks later, Michael received a letter from his mother. She'd seen a news story about a lost veteran found and recognized his name. The letter was shaky, the words full of hope and fear. Michael, if this is really you, please call. We miss you. We never stopped loving you. Michael stared at the letter 4 hours before finally picking up the phone. His mother answered on the first ring, her voice trembling. Michael, is it really you? He choked back tears. It's me, Mom. I'm okay. I'm coming home. The reunion was emotional. His mother hugged him so tightly he could barely breathe. His brother, David, drove in from out of state, tears streaming down his face as he embraced Michael. I thought I'd lost you forever. His mother whispered. I was lost, Mom, but I'm home now. Michael spent the weekend with his family, sharing stories, apologizing for the years he'd been gone. They forgave him, reminding him that he was loved, that he mattered. When he returned to the Thompsons, Michael felt lighter. He thanked Jake and Sarah for everything they'd done. You saved me, he told them. I don't know how to repay you, Jake smiled. Just keep moving forward. That's all any of us can do. Michael threw himself into his work at the mechanic shop. He made friends with his coworkers, shared lunch breaks, and even started teaching a younger employee, Sam, how to fix engines. Sam was fresh out of high school, unsure of his future, and looked up to Michael as a mentor. One afternoon, Sam asked, "Were you really in the Army?" Michael nodded. "A long time ago. Was it scary?" Michael thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but you learn to trust the people around you. That's what gets you through." Sam smiled. "I'm glad you're here, Mike." Michael felt a surge of pride. For the first time in years, he felt like he had something to offer. He continued attending the support group, sharing his progress, encouraging others. He volunteered at the local shelter, helping other veterans find jobs, housing, and hope. He spoke at schools, telling students about resilience, service, and the importance of never giving up. One evening, Michael was invited to speak at a city council meeting about veteran homelessness. Nervous, he stood before the crowd, hands trembling. "My name is Michael Chen. I served in Afghanistan. I lost my way for a long time, but people believed in me, helped me find my way back. There are thousands of veterans like me, living on the streets, forgotten. We can do better. We have to." The room was silent. Then, one by one, people began to applaud. After the meeting, a local journalist approached Michael. "Would you be willing to share your story on TV? I think it could help a lot of people." Michael hesitated, but Jake encouraged him. "Your story matters, Michael. It could save lives." The interview aired the following week. Michael spoke honestly about his struggles, his journey, and the people who'd helped him along the way. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in for the shelter, and several veterans reached out, asking for help. Michael realized that his pain, his journey, had a purpose. He wasn't just surviving, he was making a difference. As autumn settled over the city, Michael's life had found a new rhythm. He woke each morning in his small apartment to space provided through a local veteran housing program. The walls still bare, but the air filled with possibility. He'd brew coffee and sit by the window, watching the sunrise paint the city in gold. Sometimes, he'd jot down his thoughts in a battered notebook, a habit Dr. Patel had encouraged. Writing helps you make sense of the past, the therapist had said. For Michael, it was a way to remember and to let go. His days were full. At the mechanic's shop, he was now trusted with the most complicated repairs. Mr. Harris, the owner, often left the shop in Michael's care, confident that both the work and the younger staff were in good hands. Sam, the apprentice, had become like a little brother. They'd share jokes, talk about life, and sometimes, late in the day, Sam would ask about the war. Michael answered honestly, never glorifying, always emphasizing the bonds between people. Outside of work, Michael's world had grown. He continued, volunteering at the shelter, where he'd started a mentorship program for homeless veterans. Every Thursday night, a group would gather in the shelter's common room, some new, some regulars. Michael would lead discussions, help with job applications, and, most importantly, listen. He knew the power of being heard. One Thursday, a new face appeared, a woman named Carla, who'd served as a medic in Iraq. She was quiet, withdrawn, her eyes darting around the room. After the meeting, Michael approached her. "First time?" he asked gently. She nodded. "I didn't know where else to go." Michael offered a reassuring smile. "You're in the right place. We look out for each other here." Carla became a regular, slowly opening up about her experiences. Michael watched as she found her footing, connecting with others, and even leading a session on trauma care. He realized that the group was more than support, it was a family. Meanwhile, the city's response to Michael's televised interview continued to ripple outward. Donations to the shelter increased, and local businesses began offering discounts and job opportunities to veterans. The mayor's office reached out, asking Michael to serve on a committee to address homelessness. At first, he hesitated. He was just a mechanic, a survivor. But Jake and Sarah encouraged him. "You've lived it, Michael," Jake said. "That's what this city needs, someone who understands." Michael agreed, and soon found himself sitting in city hall meetings, his voice carrying weight. He advocated for mental health services, affordable housing, and job training. He spoke not as a politician, but as someone who had walked the streets, slept under bridges, and survived. One cold Saturday in November, the city held its annual Veterans Day parade. For years, Michael had watched from the sidelines, blending into the crowd. This year, he was invited to ride on the lead float, alongside other veterans and community leaders. As the parade wound through downtown, people cheered and waved flags. Michael spotted Sam and Mr. Harris in the crowd, grinning and shouting his name. He saw Carla, surrounded by friends from the shelter. waving a homemade sign. "Thank you, Michael." At the end of the parade, a ceremony was held at the city's war memorial. The mayor stepped up to the microphone. "Today, we honor all who served, but we also honor those who've struggled, who've been lost and found, who remind us that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off. Michael Chen, will you please join me?" Michael's heart pounded as he walked to the stage. The crowd fell silent. "Michael," the mayor continued, "your courage, both in war and in life, inspires us all. On behalf of this city, thank you for your service and for showing us the power of hope." The mayor handed Michael a plaque. Cameras flashed, but Michael barely noticed. He looked out at the crowd, Jake and Sarah, his mother and brother, Sam, Carla, and dozens of others whose lives had touched his own. He felt a surge of gratitude, stronger than any medal or honor. When the ceremony ended, people lined up to shake Michael's hand, to thank him, to share their own stories. He listened to each one, offering encouragement, sometimes just a quiet nod. He understood now that everyone carried invisible wounds, and that kindness could be as healing as any medicine. That evening, Michael returned to his apartment, exhausted but content. He sat at his desk, opened his notebook, and began to write. "I used to think I was alone, that no one could understand what I'd been through, but I was wrong. There are people everywhere, people who care, who reach out, who refuse to let you disappear. I survived because others believed in me. Now, I believe in myself." The days grew shorter as winter approached, but Michael's world was brighter than it had been in years. He continued his work at the shop, at the shelter. In the community, he and Carla organized a holiday meal for veterans, gathering donations and volunteers. The event was a success, with laughter, music, and stories shared late into the night. On New Year's Eve, Michael stood on the shelter's rooftop, watching fireworks burst over the city. Jake joined him, handing him a cup of hot chocolate. "Not a bad year, huh?" Jake said, grinning. Michael laughed. "The best I've had in a long time." They stood in comfortable silence, the city alive with celebration below. "Thank you, Jake," Michael said quietly, "for finding me." Jake shook his head. "You found yourself, Michael. I just helped you remember who you are." As midnight struck, Michael made a silent promise to keep moving forward, to keep helping others, to never let himself be lost again. Months passed, and Michael's impact only grew. He was invited to speak at national conferences, sharing his story with audiences across the country. He met veterans from every branch, every war, each with their own scars and triumphs. He listened, learned, and offered hope. One spring afternoon, Michael received a letter from a young soldier stationed overseas. The letter was simple, but powerful. "I saw your story. I was thinking about giving up, but you made me believe things can get better. Thank you for reminding me I'm not alone." Michael kept the letter in his wallet, a reminder of how far he'd come and how far he still had to go. He stayed close with Jake and Sarah, visiting often for dinners, holidays, and quiet evenings spent reminiscing. His family, once fractured by loss, was whole again. He and his brother, David, started hiking together, exploring the trails and forests they'd loved as kids. Nature became a sanctuary, a place to heal and reflect. Carla, too, became a close friend. Together, they launched a nonprofit dedicated to supporting female veterans, offering counseling, job training, and community events. The organization grew quickly, attracting volunteers and donors from across the state. Looking back, Michael marveled at the journey. From a street corner, on a cold night, to a life filled with purpose and connection, he had traveled farther than he'd ever imagined. He knew there would still be hard days, nights when the memories returned, when the weight of the past felt heavy. But he also knew he wasn't alone. He had friends, family, and a community that cared. On the anniversary of the night Jake found him, Michael organized a candlelight vigil for homeless veterans. Hundreds gathered in the city square, candles flickering in the darkness. Michael spoke, his voice steady. "We light these candles for those still searching for home, for those who feel invisible, for those who have not yet found their way. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. We see you, we honor you, and we will never stop fighting for you." As the crowd stood in silence, Michael looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of peace he'd thought was lost forever. He was no longer just surviving, he was living, thriving, and giving back. He had become a beacon for others, proof that, even in the darkest times, hope could be found. And as the final candle burned low, Michael Chen smiled, knowing that his story was far from over.